How does somebody who is a brigadier general suddenly become a champion for coaching? Isn't there an inherent contradiction between a military hierarchy and a military way of working and this idea of what coaching brings, which feels like the opposite of a direct command? How do you square that particular circle, Tom?
Yeah. So, there are a lot of misconceptions about the military, and that's particularly true in a global context because, one army can be vastly different from another army. In the U.S. Army, there are two things that dominate the way that we interact with people. And the first is that there is nothing held in higher regard than leadership. It's considered to be the holy grail of military interaction. But the other thing that's key about the U.S. military is very egalitarian, very much a meritocracy.
Right.
And so people are expected to never lean on their rank. The rank gives them a certain set of responsibilities, but it doesn't give them any advantage in the framework that we operate in our military. So a general is supposed to take the same physical fitness test as a private.
Right.
And one of the things about being in combat, and our military has unfortunately been in combat for 15 years.
Yes.
The value of rank in combat, in situations where people are really afraid, goes down dramatically. People really don't care what your rank is.
Right.
If you're giving them bad advice, they're going to walk away from you. And likewise, someone who they do trust, regardless of rank, is who they're going to follow.
Uh-huh.
So perhaps on a parade field, leaders can be dictators and martinets and order people around. But in dangerous places, it just doesn't work that way because the threat is much higher than any sort of rank imbued authority. And so you really have to earn it in those situations.
And in fact, one of the things that you talk about in the book is that one of the ways to lead is to create a sense of shared risk. And I thought that was very interesting because so often if you're a leader, and this is not in the military, this is just throughout organizational life, quite often I see people when they, particularly newer leaders, they're like, I need to be responsible for everybody and everything, and it's all on my shoulders. That's what the job means. But you're actually encouraging something different. And I'm curious to know how you cultivate the responsibility and accountability that leads to a sense of shared risk.
Sure. Well, we found that concept to be predominant in Iraq. And really what we mean by that is this. Usually the lower level people in the organization are going to have inherently more risk.
Right.
And consequently, when a leader can reach down and demonstrate that they are sharing that risk, that leader has their own skin in the game, that they're not using their position to protect themselves when they're not doing that for the people who work with them. That's shared risk.
Mm-hmm.
And so if, we see this in corporate circumstances sometimes when leaders take a lot of their pay, a lot of their remuneration in company stock.
Right.
Because that means that, if the company goes down, it's not just the lower level employees who are going to be furloughed or fired, and that's the end of it. The leader has a lot to lose. And that's a great position from which to develop trust. Because people understand you're in it with them and they respect that and admire that.
I'd love this channel to be one of your channels, and it is if you hit the subscribe button. So do that now.